on to our top story this evening then. Washington's crackdown on H-1B visas has Arun Jaitley rather furious. The finance minister today launched a massive offensive against this proposal, stating that the visa curbs are nothing but a discriminatory move targeted mainly against the Indian IT professionals. The finance minister, who's in the United States to attend the spring meeting of the IMF and the World Bank, raised his concerns during his meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman. Now remember, the U.S. Congress imposed special fees on H-1B and L-1 visas, mostly used by IT professionals. Jaitley also said that India is keen to finalize a totalization agreement with the United States, which will exempt professionals from both countries from social security taxes when they go to work for a short period in either of the two countries. Now, talking about the Indian economy, he said that the country could do much better than the targeted 7.5% growth levels for this fiscal, considering the prospect of an above-normal monsoon. Jaitley's offensive against H-1B visa curbs and his upward revision of growth targets, or potential growth targets, is a top story right here on India Tonight. All right, and to take us through all the statements that the FM is making in the United States and what they really mean as far as the Indian economy is concerned, we are joined by Ruchi Bhatia and Gaurang Sinha. Gaurang, we'll let you go first very quickly. The finance minister really mincing no words with his aggressive stance on the U.S. Crackdown on H-1B visas, really raising that and raking up that issue with the trade secretary there.
Interventions coming from the finance minister Arun Jaitley, and essentially the first one is with regard to the fee hikes as far as the H-1B and L-1 visas are concerned. Now remember, these have been key areas of contention, particularly also as far as the rhetoric in the US elections is concerned, and the finance minister has minced no words, saying that these are discriminatory, particularly against the Indian IT companies. The second major intervention in that meeting with the US Trade Representative as well is with regard to that totalization pact. Now, as far as the finance minister is concerned, he said and he's called for an early signing of that pact, saying that as far as Indians in the United States are concerned, they've made massive contributions to US social security, and that totalization pact is a crucial part of India and the US bilateral strategy going forward. So some important interventions coming there on the first day of his visit to the United States.
Hold your thoughts there, Ruchi and Gaurang, because it's time to get you someone whose skin is really in the game. R. Chandrasekhar, the president of NASSCOM, is joining us live right here on India Tonight. Thanks very much, Mr. Chandrasekhar, for sparing time this evening. The finance minister really mincing no words, and he's on American soil, and this is where he goes and says H-1B visa restrictions are discriminatory in nature. What do you make of that statement?
Well, first, good evening, everyone. I think that, what everyone has stated is the obvious. This is something which we have been saying for a long time. The government had also said the same thing. And I think it has been reiterated in the U.S. by the finance minister.
But let's keep the rhetoric aside. The government will perhaps have to do a lot more than making this rhetoric, than, speaking this stern language. Do you essentially hope for a rollback? What is it that the industry is looking at? It's one thing to raise this issue, but that many people believe is mere rhetoric.
Well, the thing is that this step has already been a part of the appropriations bill. But we do know that this may not be the end of it. There have been and there are other legislations which are being tabled. There are different groups calling for different kinds of action. And there perhaps appears to be no end to these kind of measures which are being contemplated by different groups of people. Now, what we are saying is that this is very much a part of trade, and it is you can't keep imposing these kind of costs and barriers to trade in areas that matter to India, which are important to the Indian economy, and on the other side, expect that any restrictions or perceived restrictions on trade into India will be lowered and removed or should not be raised. So once both countries have agreed to raise the trade to a new level of $500 billion in a few years. Both countries have agreed that the potential exists, and both countries agree that this is in the best interest of the two economies. Then that goal is not going to be reached by raising barriers in the path of this growth in areas that are important to each of our countries. So I think that is the broader message which goes. One should not only look at it from the point of view of rolling back this particular initiative, but very clearly bringing out the larger trajectory which has to be adopted for this growth to really take place.
You know, I agree with some of what you've said, because nothing else explains the fact that companies almost seem to have shrugged off this hike, because if you go by the record number of H-1B visa applications this year, it does belie the fact that the companies were at all concerned about that hike that came in.
Well, I think, you have to, these two cannot be correlated, because this is not a situation where you can get a balance by a pricing solution. Because the need arises not because the cost of a visa is cheap. The need arises because the skills are not available in the U.S. And if the skills are not available in the U.S. To the required extent or number, then they will have to come from somewhere. And ultimately, those costs are borne by the American consumer or the American company. And if these skills are not made available, then ultimately the gains that result in corporate America, the kind of productivity gains that result from the deployment of these IT solutions will not happen. And that also is something which adversely impacts the companies there. This is something which it's not just NASSCOM or the Indian industry or the finance minister and the government pointing it out. U.S. business chambers have also said that this attempt to demonize H-1B visas and sort of put up this front that there is no shortage of any kind and we don't need anybody coming in on H-1B visas is not in the interest of corporate America itself. So that is something which even U.S. chambers of business have put across. U.S. Chamber of Commerce has said that. U.S. India Business Council has said that. And other U.S. chambers have also said that.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, I have a very valid point to ask of you, because you say that the US Chamber is throwing its weight behind Indian IT. What about your own IT doyens? We had N.R. Narayan Murthy a while back say Indian IT companies are acting like agents of immigration. Doesn't that hurt your case even further?
Well, an individual opinion does not become the opinion of the industry, notwithstanding the fact that it comes from a respected leader of the Indian industry. But the fact of the matter is that that the industry as a whole certainly does not believe that is the case. And I think that we are very clear that the industry delivers a huge value to America, to corporate America, that this is the value that helps to keep corporate America globally competitive. It helps corporate America to be the job creator in the U.S. that it is today. And that is what has kept, the whole job market going. So it is incorrect to look at it from the narrower prism of saying, okay, if so many people are coming in on H-1B visas, then that's so many jobs lost. This number is minuscule. It's only approximately about 65,000 in all, of which the Indian visa holders are only a part. Whereas the number of jobs lost in corporate America each year is 1.5 million. And so surely these 65,000 are inconsequential and negligible when viewed against that number. But the fact is that number doesn't hurt America because 1.7 million jobs get created.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, the question that I have for you, and I'm going to let you go after this question, is that your arguments notwithstanding, those numbers of course justify your case, but the fact is that as elections progress and as the political rhetoric picks up, do you expect this backlash against outsourcing, against IT companies to pick up even more in the US?
Well, many of the very substantive measures that are being advocated by some extreme views actually require legislative action. And we believe that, in the run-up to the U.S. election, it is difficult to envisage comprehensive immigration legislation going through in the U.S. But notwithstanding the fact that comprehensive immigration legislation appears difficult, these kind of stray measures which are not part of any immigration bill as such, but which are introduced as collateral with some other bill, are things that we will have to continue, to watch out for. So we will certainly have to keep putting across this point of view, and both from the government and the industry, we continue to do that, and we are glad that the government has also put it across so strongly. And I think it's good that the finance minister has used this opportunity to state our position unambiguously.
So that's the thumbs up that's coming in from the NASSCOM chief as far as the finance minister's own statement on the US soil is concerned, denouncing the H-1B visa restrictions, really voicing the cause and concerns of Indian IT. Thank you very much, Mr. Chandrasekhar, for sparing time this evening. But time to tune in to the man who's making those important statements all the way in the United States, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley.
Enthusiasm with regard to India was waning off because policy changes which could have been possible, I think in the political model at the time which the government had adopted, were not fast enough. The direction was not clear. And when I say the direction was not clear, it was really concentrated in terms of going back to where India was in the 1960s and the 70s, where you started concentrating on distribution of or redistribution of the existing resource, rather than concentrate on increasing productivity and improving upon India's very potential. And therefore I think even the key on India's very potential.
All right, that's Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who has also said on American soil that 7.5% growth rate is not good enough. He expects that number to improve. Ruchi Bhatia is joining in with more perspective on that. 7.5% not good enough, but what are the fault lines according to him, and what will be the growth enablers?
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is hard-selling the India story in US, especially at a time when IMF itself has said that they have gone ahead, they've slashed the world global growth target, and they're saying that India continues to be the beacon of hope. India continues to be the sweet spot as far as the global economy is concerned. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley clearly saying that 7.5% is not good enough. India perhaps need a higher growth target than this, but this of course will not be enough, especially at a time, will be very difficult, especially at a time that the global growth is very slow, and we're seeing a significant impact on the Indian export market. Also look at the fact that if we see sharper slowdown in key economies like US and Europe, that is going to be something that will affect the India growth story. Apart from that, key legislations that are stuck in the parliament at this point of time, which includes GST, bankruptcy bill, that of course will be the big concern as far as India is concerned. But then there are several growth enablers. In the last 1.5-2 years, we've seen macros considerably becoming much better. The fundamentals for the India growth story are much better at this point of time. If you see, we've got windfall gains from oil. Apart from that, CAD and inflation are much under control. So a whole host of things that are working for India, but some that India still needs to actually work over. But then again, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley clearly saying that India is an aspirational country, and there is much more that needs to be done. However, a lot has already been done in the last 2 years itself. All
right, Ruchi Bhatia and Gaurang Sinha, thank you very much for joining us this Thursday evening and putting it all in perspective. Finance Minister Jaitley's big pitch there in the United States, and our reporters on top of the perspective. Thank you very much indeed for sparing time.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.